Welcome back to the Witchy Web We Weave. I'm Alara.
I'm Alex.
And today we're continuing our Tarot Tuesday series. Sorry, it's been a minute since I've posted anything. I've had a lot of life has happened. So today we're going to be talking about the Lovers. Let's go ahead and do the insert the image. I'm going to do what I always do. Go through some of the symbolism, talk about the card in general. We'll do some pros, we'll do some cons. I'm actually not going to do an example for this one.
No?
I'll get there.
Okay.
Okay, so when we're looking at the Lovers is all about universal balance. It's supposed to be the idea of a balance of...
Sorry, folks.
Reposition? Yeah. The Lovers is all about universal balance, but it's also about the idea of the universal balance of opposites. So it's supposed to be not just a balance of masculine and feminine, but it's almost kind of like a yin-yang. Think of it kind of in that capacity in some ways. But it's supposed to also be about divine union, soulmates. One of the key things when you're looking at the card is you'll notice that the image itself is of a man and a woman, often identified as Adam and Eve. Like I said in some of my other videos, heavily based on Christian symbolism, mythology, mysticism. This is no different, folks. So we're seeing a man and a woman, and behind them, one of the other prominent figures is that of an angel in the sky, and often in front of or being backed by the sun. This is supposed to be an indication of a divine blessing. This is supposed to be divinely influenced, or supposed to be the will of the divine that this has happened. Along with the man and the woman supposed to be indicative of Adam and Eve, it is also supposed to be an indication of a very basic principle upon which the Rider-Waite was based. And it's kind of an older concept of men are supposed to represent the logical aspect of humanity, and women are supposed to embody the intuition aspect of humanity. Kind of like, it's supposed to be like sun and moon, water and fire. They're supposed to be balancing opposites. But it is a very old concept that the men or masculine energy is supposed to be representative of logic, and the feminine is supposed to be representative of intuition. Think of it also kind of like going back to the magician and its obverse, the high priestess. Again, logic, intuition. Same thing with the emperor and the empress. Logic, intuition. So, also when we're looking at the Lovers, on each side of the couple, there is a tree. On the side of behind Eve, I'm just going to refer to them as Adam and Eve, it makes things easier. On the one side of Eve is the apple tree often with a serpent attached.
Mm-hmm.
Gee, I wonder what that's supposed to be representing. It's supposed to be the tree of knowledge. And then the tree behind Adam, it looks like a flaming tree, or a tree that has been set on fire. It's supposed to be kind of indicative of the burning bush in Christian stories, but it's supposed to be representative of the tree of life. But if you also notice or take the time to actually count the number of flames on the tree of life, there are 12 of them. That's supposed to be also indicative of the 12 zodiac signs. So I thought that was very interesting, and that was something I didn't know before. When you look behind the couple, you see mountains often in the distance. This is supposed to be a concept of love gives you the power to be able to travel, travel long distances. It's supposed to be able to give you the power or strength to climb, what is that? Ain't no mountain high enough. It's supposed to be kind of that
Conquer all obstacles.
Pretty much. Like, love is supposed to be strong enough to allow you to conquer even the most. My brain is failing me, but you know what I mean.
It's love is supposed to get you through adversity and challenges.
There you go. See, this is why you're here. Aren't you amazing? I also do like the idea that in other variations of this card, often instead of having the angel indicating divine blessing, sometimes instead there is a representation of Cupid shooting an arrow at the two. I thought that was very neat and also kind of cute. But I mean, this particular card is rather straightforward. I do understand that it's supposed to be the idea of man and woman, masculine and feminine. It's supposed to be a divine union, but I also do like the concept of looking a little deeper underneath the common heteronormativity of it all and trying to think of it in more grander ideas, such as the idea of yin and yang. So when we're looking at the pros of the card, this card can often symbolize attraction, either physical or sometimes also spiritual attraction. It can indicate, especially in love readings, it can indicate sex, it can indicate a good relationship or a marriage. I've seen it represent a wedding that is coming up, or just simply a connection with someone else. But oftentimes, if you see this card in indicating a healthy or a good reading, or a good interpretation, it often represents a healthy relationship of some kind, or a relationship based on good choices. It can also indicate it can also represent a platonic or a business partnership or relationship, not just a sexual or a romantic one. There are many different kinds of love. There are so many different levels. And I actually used to know just about all of them.
Yeah, we were talking about that the other day because, weird note, I read Lore Olympus, which they're talking about making a show, which I am thrilled. But anyway, in the story, we're meeting all the Greek gods and goddesses as kind of like daily average folks, kind of. And we go to Aphrodite's house, and Eros is there, and all of his siblings are named after all the types of love that the Greeks had for every
Which
type
I think
of
there are
love.
like 7 or 8 different types of love.
I think so, yeah. I was like
there's parental love, there's platonic love, there's romantic love. There are so many different types of love. And not all of... very few of them are, sexually based.
Yeah. I will probably actually insert a list somewhere around here of the actual words just to make sense of what we're talking about. But yeah, I don't remember the names either because they're all Greek names and ending in posts and whatever.
If we're talking about a good interpretation of this card, one of the oldest, and I don't really like this interpretation, but one of the oldest interpretations, if we're looking kind of back to the kind of
look at that face.
I know. Back when death actually meant death and blah, 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 blah. And all this, the more... I don't know. I can't think of the word for it. But basically, this card could be interpreted as true love. I don't like that interpretation at all. I find it to be very shallow.
How's that shallow?
Because it's taking the card at face value instead of actually trying to get any deeper meaning or interpretation of it. It's just oh, the lovers, true love. You are made for each other. Instead of actually, it is an answer without trying. I find it to be kind of lazy. Which I might actually make a video on this after I get done talking about all the different cards. Talking about, talking about how you can do shortcuts with tarot and how that may not always be a good option. Or how to try to get further or deeper or more meaningful interpretations from your cards. So, I do have it percolate in the back of my mind. So please don't take offense if I've said, if you get this interpretation, that it could be lazy. This could actually be an interpretation that you may get, and it may be a valid one. It's just a lot of times, if a card comes up, it's trying to tell you something more than just a very basic You know, just a very basic, like, oh, true love. And, like, dig a little deeper. But then again, my opinion is my own. Please try not to get too offended at
I
me.
almost feel like, yeah, like, I was, just real quick, I was gonna say, like, maybe, like, that's what you're hoping it means?
I
Because,
think
like,
that happens a lot. Is if you get that particular interpretation, sometimes it can be wishful thinking, or it can be you just looking for the bright side and hoping, because that's the absolute best option that you could ever get with this card.
Yeah, because when you said it's either romantic or it could be partnership, not necessarily a romance
It could be
thing.
business.
Yeah, I was thinking of, I think the runes Ewaz,
Mhm.
or Manas, I forget which one. But basically, one of the readings is you're getting married, and the other reading is you're going into a partnership in business. It's very similar, but, like, I could see where people are like, oh, I'm getting married, versus, oh, I might be starting a business.
I think it's very, very important that, because this is one of those cards, the Lovers in particular, that just because you get the Lovers in a reading does not mean that it is talking about romantic stuff. Because you could be, it's all dependent on what your original question was. The question of the reading, like the question being posed, is much more important. And it actually, that goes so much more into pulling interpretations out of the card. Because if you're asking about work and you get the Lovers, please do not automatically assume that the cards are like, oh, you know, we shouldn't be talking about this. We should be talking about your love life. That could be true. But please try to interpret the cards through the lens of the question first, and then try, if something is kind of nagging at you or pulling at you to go another way, then do it afterwards. But please always try to address or interpret the cards that you receive through the lens of the question that is being asked first. And that is something that I will talk about in other videos later on down the line. So let's kind of get back to it. When looking at the negative, or we'll just do the negative interpretations of this card. It could simply be an interpretation of that some kind of partnership is growing apart. A friendship, a marriage, a business association. Something is kind of pulling apart or falling apart, or unhealthy choices are being made, or people are not doing the upkeep necessary for a particular relationship, whatever relationship it is. It can also, I've seen it indicate abuse or affairs, or being untruthful in some kind of a partnership, or just simply a dishonest partner, someone that is not being upfront with each other, or they're becoming disillusioned with one another. Can mean, in that similar film, it can also mean a loss of connection, discord, ultimately, or a lot of arguments are taking place with each other, or refusing to see each other's point of views. It can also indicate feelings of uncertainty in a partnership of any kind. But that's kind of it. There are other interpretations that can be made through this card, but I think after that general list of what I've given you, most other interpretations are going to be more personal, or they're going to be ones that you develop over time, because I feel like this is a card that is very reliant on how you view the Lovers and what your particular associations are with it. Because this card can also be a shadow card for a great many folks, especially for those who fall outside of heteronormativity.
Yeah, I can see that.
Because it is so often interpreted or used for heterosexual relationships and things like that. So that's also one of the reasons why I am refusing to give an example for this particular card, because this is a card that is incredibly personal to folks in its interpretation and what it means. Because if we're looking at this card through the idea of love, or through the idea of partnership, that means a lot of different things to a lot of different folks. And I view love and to a greater extent sexuality on a much broader spectrum than just what I feel like this card can initially mean. So I feel like for this particular card, it is very important for everyone to develop their own examples of what this can mean to you. So I encourage anybody that is watching this that is wanting to think about or gain lessons from the Lovers, I encourage you to think about your own life and your own opinions and thoughts and feelings on the idea of what does partnership mean to you? What does a good partnership look like to you? Are there any people in your life that represent a good or healthy relationship to you? What does that look like? And then maybe try to think about, is there a book or a show or a movie or art that makes you contemplate or think about or calls up the feelings of togetherness, union, partnership? Because I think that is a really good exercise to help you get a greater understanding of how you think and operate as a human being. So I hope that it doesn't bother you that I'm not giving an example for this one, but I hope that it is a source of interesting growth for you. But I know this is an incredibly short one, but hopefully my other ones will be a little bit more fleshed out. I just feel like this one is very internal. I think it's very personal, and I think to some degree it needs to be kept personal. But I hope you enjoyed. I hope that you had at least a little bit of fun, and I hope to see you next time for my next Tarot Tuesday. And until then, many blessings.